Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times, but screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas?
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a seventh-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I told you he's going to be number one overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not so. There were two perfectly rated quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
What's up, everyone? Welcome in. This is In-Game Live Game Day here on SportsGrid. I am Adam Kaufman, and for the next 2 hours, not only joined by you, but joined by Dane Martinez. The two of us will have you and hopefully help you make some money along the way. You got this same duo again tomorrow night, too, so hopefully you like what you see and hear. Dane, it is going to be fun, man, because we got a slew of guests on the way. We're going to have Rob Donaldson join us later this hour, getting to some baseball talk with him. Next hour, we will have a couple of SportsGrid regulars. Of course, George Kurtz will come on, get into some hockey, some baseball. Cam Stewart, he's just, you pull the ripcord on his back, and who knows what the hell's going to come out of his mouth. But we're going to get into a lot of good stuff with him before he goes on with Gabe and Sports Rage a little bit later on. But how are you, sir? We got a lot of baseball underway.
Yeah, we're doing good. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Adam. I think you're right. We just got to figure out the one question to ask Cam a little bit later on and then just let him go, right? But it's exciting. It's an interesting time of the sports calendar, right? Because we don't have the NBA playoffs tonight. We don't have the NHL playoffs tonight. But I think that's a better opportunity for us to really zone in on Major League Baseball, find the opportunities, because when the games are live, so are we. And quite frankly, now already in Miami and Boston, I actually believe, Adam, this is the exact right time of the game. We're starting to get pitchers that have their pitch count getting up. We're starting to have guys second, third time through the lineups. I like to see if there's any, opportunities to maybe hop over a live total if a starter is going well, if there's any dogs that are up that we don't believe in. This is a good time to bet baseball in the middle innings.
Good time to tell you what's going on the diamond right now. And there are a bunch of games that are still starting later on, including some later this hour. But we got about a half hour, 40 minutes before those do begin. So plenty of time to preview them, obviously. But what is happening right now? The Reds, the Pirates, they are even at 1, bottom 5 in Pittsburgh. You mentioned Miami. The Marlins still trying to add more. Up 5-3 at home against the Cubs. The Cubs, who were considerable favorites coming into this game, now right around plus 270 on FanDuel on the money line. We'll get back to that one. The the Red Sox and the Mets, this one at Fenway, saw an interesting trend earlier that teams on the road off playing Sunday Night Baseball, 1-5 this year in their first games of the next series. So obviously, Subway Series last night. The Mets, even though it was New York, I get it, but the Mets, technically the road team there in the Bronx. Boston, New York, it's not that far a travel. It's another thing to play into the handicap, but even still, that would say the Mets are destined for a loss tonight. Well, right now, it is 3-1 in favor of Boston. However, New York does have a man aboard top 5 with 1 out, so we'll see what the Mets are able to turn that into, if anything. The Astros up 3-0 in Tampa against the Rays. That one is bottom 4. Guardians Twins even at 1 early on. It is only in the second inning. No score. Mariners White Sox. You got a Seattle team, another heavy favorite coming into this day against a miserable Chicago team. And bottom 2, though, the White Sox are trying to get the first man across the plate here in this game. They got a guy on third with 2 out. See if Luis Castillo can get out of it here. Baltimore already up 1-0 in the second in Milwaukee, and St. Louis at home 1-0 lead against Detroit in the second as well. But you mentioned it. There are 2 spots that might be worthwhile as far as investing now. The Mets, who again, runners at the corners now with 1 out in the 5th inning, still plus 180 on the money line at Fenway against the Red Sox. And of course, the Cubs, who now trail 6-3, even better number. It's plus 430 on Chicago. But again, you're dealing with a 3-run deficit and only 4 batting innings to go at the very minimum anyway. If we see extras, who knows? So how do you feel about the Cubs and the Mets right now? Anyone you'd like to invest in?
I mean, if anything, for me, it would be the Cubs, even at plus 430 on the money line, or I would take them. Right now, I'm seeing on FanDuel plus 2.5 at your regular kind of coin flip minus 110. I would buy into the Cubs, maybe not even taking the full 2.5, but maybe something like 1.5 would be a way that I would go there, backing the Chicago Cubs. The other thing, like I said, we are tied in Pittsburgh 1-1 with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Keller has thrown 75 pitches. Lodolo has thrown about 77 pitches. And I see a live total for a game that closed at 8 on the number, down at 5.5. I wouldn't be surprised if these starting pitchers are gone and both of these teams can make hay against the bullpens, right? And I like the fact that that game is close. So we could get 2-2. We could get 3-3. The over 5.5 in Pittsburgh is something else that I would look at, especially this is kind of one of those blueprints that I really like, Adam, when both starting pitchers are going well, but they are towards the end of their rope. So over 5.5 in Pittsburgh is another thing that I would look at.
Well, what you left out there too is plus money, plus 101 now, plus 118 if you went to the over 5.5. So obviously a real opportunity to make some hay for you if we do get some of that offense as the game moves along here. To that point, Cincinnati is not a great team. In fact, probably, just to let people know, obviously, where the Reds are in the standings exactly in the NL Central. We're looking at a team, I was going to say mediocre, right on the dot.
Exactly mediocre.
24-24. So that made me feel good. Although the Reds, they've been hot of late. 4 straight wins coming into this one. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh, this team sucks, Dane. 3 straight losses coming in, and you're looking at 15-32, one of the worst records, not the worst, obviously, but we'll always have Colorado, one of the worst records in baseball. And so when you consider that, and you look at Cincinnati here, top 6, and the reason that the line is what it is because the Reds are even at 1 and already have 2 outs in the top of the inning. But Cincinnati is basically plus 110, and Pittsburgh right around minus 140. To me, you mentioned the pitch counts and that we could see the bullpens coming up soon. I would happily take on the Pittsburgh bullpen. I don't know how you don't fire away on the Cincinnati money line right now.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Listen, this Pittsburgh bullpen has been something to figure out all season long. Remember, David Bednar came in thinking that he was the closer. They optioned him down to AAA for a while. It was guys like Holderman, Santana. Now Bednar is back. So yes, I think both of these bullpens can be had. So I'm not mad at you. And also you get the home team, you get the extra at bat there. And like you said, with their now 2 outs and a man on second, I do believe though, for Cincinnati, you get the kind of benefit there of them getting kind of the last licks as well, right? So I like the way you're going with this game, Adam. Both, I think there will be runs scored against this bullpen, and I might as well go ahead and lay the side with you as well. But I'm more apt to go for the total, but I'm not mad at you. We can get down. We might as well get down. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours, right?
Well, and, just as we were talking about it, line moves 20 cents because they didn't, when I first brought up that game, didn't have the man aboard. Like you said, got the guy into scoring position, and that, we were talking plus 110, moves it to minus 110. Everything's locked up right now because there may very well be a run on the way to coming in. We'll see. Still says 2 outs, man on second, but again, everything is locked, so the books need to readjust to what has just happened. The Mets, they are threatening. Again, runners at the corners at Fenway, and we got a commercial break because I've got that one on my screen here. So it looks like we got a pitching change potentially there in Boston. We do. Wilson is coming in, the reliever. So there are 2 outs. He is going to try and get out of this jam. Huge opportunity for New York on the way here. And Miami couldn't tack on anymore, so it's still a 3-run game. So the odds as far as betting Cubs money line, if you wanted to, come down just a little bit, right around plus 420 now, which, it was still, I mean, we know. I mean, granted, Miami is not an atrocious team, but you think back to what we just saw against the White Sox. The Cubs, they score runs in bunches, man. So a 3-run inning, a couple of 2-run innings, not out of the question. We've already seen it tonight, as a matter of fact. So, Cincinnati got a run in. RBI double, 2-1 now the Reds, and now it's now minus 240.
I just saw the play, Adam. Drop. He just dropped the line drive.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Adam Dane hanging out with you and talking some baseball right now. We'll obviously get to some NBA playoff action down to the Final Four there, if you will. Much the same in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Plenty of hockey later on. Maybe we mix in some football in these 2 hours. Who knows? It's all on the table. So Cincinnati up 2-1 in Pittsburgh. The Pirates, after that error, allowing the run to score when, as you mentioned before, the left fielder just drops the ball, allows the go-ahead run to score. As it stands, minus 215 for Cincy. So hopefully when we started talking about it at plus money, you got in, because unless Pittsburgh evens it up, even takes a lead, you miss the value in the number. That's for damn sure. The Cubs, they've got a leadoff man aboard, so we'll see if they're able to do anything there in Miami. The Red Sox got out of the jam. Again, runners at the corners for the Mets with the go-ahead run at the plate and couldn't get anything across. So Boston's still up 3-1 in that one. Rays, who were favored coming into the day, down 3-0 in the bottom of the fifth inning against the Houston Astros. You mentioned, Dane, the game between Baltimore and, Milwaukee. Top three at the moment in Milwaukee. It's 3-1. The Brewers are leading this game. Now, this Orioles team, it's like how the mighty have fallen, right? Like, this was a team that was excellent last year. This year comes into the season as, one of the top 5 teams in the American League, obviously, to, win the league. Never mind winning the American League East, which, they were just behind the Yankees. You saw at some places co-favorites with the Yankees. They have 15 wins. They are, I don't know if they're as bad a team as there is in baseball, because again, we've got the Rockies, but they're as cold a team as there is in baseball. Only 15 wins, as mentioned, 15-30 coming into this one. Already a managerial change, already on their way to another loss, and they have dropped 6 straight coming into this game. They can't get out of their own way.
No, they absolutely can't. But if we're looking for a way to bet it, I'd be intrigued by the total in this one as well. Because one thing I still can believe is that they can still hit. Right? There's so much young talent there. I don't believe in their starting pitching. I think it was Dean Kramer that was on the hill for them in this one. And every now and then you can get these games that are going to wind up being 8-6. And you're going to see these ones continue. I always like to bet the team total for the Orioles and whoever is playing against the Orioles these days. And we were talking about it during the break. I thought, obviously, they let Burns go to Arizona, right? You would think that they would have known that if they wanted to be true contenders, they needed to have somebody up at the top of that rotation. Obviously, Grayson Rodriguez wasn't able to stay healthy and others, but you would have thought that they would have fortified that rotation a little bit more. They didn't do it. I believe their bats, their young talent will come around offensively, but the problem there is definitely their starting rotation not being kind of elite enough to be able to be trusted if they were able to get to a postseason series, right? So that's in the long term. In the short term, I do believe Milwaukee and Baltimore, to a certain extent, they've already got 4 on the board at least, and it's locked up right now. I think there could be runs in Milwaukee tonight. Let's keep an eye out on that total live as well.
I know not a lot of these trends mean anything. It's the whole trends are your friends until they're not. Oftentimes they span multiple years, teams turn over, lineups change, all that stuff. It's like people who don't believe in BVP, batter versus pitcher. I enjoy that stuff. Maybe I'm just a little too into narrative street, but a guy that puts out a lot of these great trends, Kyle Akins over at Sportsbook Breakers. I was reading this one earlier. The Mariners, heavy favorites against the White Sox. Luis Castillo on the hill. Castillo 13-0 since October 2022 as a favorite of more than minus 185 when his team was not shut out the last game. Now, that's a lot of qualifiers. That's a lot of if, then, that's in there. That's like me saying, how does a guy bat on a Wednesday night in the rain?
With a full moon outside.
But, yeah, with a full moon, exactly. But Seattle early on is up 1-0. Now, for me, this was kind of a simpler handicap. Mariners pretty good. White Sox blow. Castillo is a guy that I'm comfortable leaning into. 1-0 Seattle's up, bottom 3 right now in the Windy City. But what was your read on this game?
So I'm with you, kind of to oversimplify it, right? I don't need to know if the moon was waxing or waning, Adam. What I do know is that Seattle is a good team and the Chi Sox are not, okay? So I would have been on that as well, but I'm not going to lay the minus 205 that I saw them at. I guess the way I would ask you back here, Adam, is especially in the context that you mentioned where that stat was about Castillo specifically. Right? Would you in that situation look to the first 5 there instead of the full game? If you have these kind of data points around Castillo in this situation and not necessarily the full team of the Mariners, would you go ahead and take just Seattle in the first 5 against Chicago, figuring out that at least Castillo can limit them in their first couple of trips through the lineup?
So I have this debate internally constantly, just in a, broader strokes here, full game versus first five. Let's take it away from Castillo for a moment. Like, a better example for me might be Paul Skeens, right? Like, he is elite. He's incredible. Pittsburgh, though, is not. And so if I want to invest in a Pittsburgh game that he is starting, I'm going to bank on him to go out there and twirl 5-6 shutout innings, or allows one run, maybe even two, and hope that that's enough and the Pittsburgh offense can get on the board. Someone like Castillo, who is obviously past his prime, as we know, these situations, they need to be a little bit more lopsided for me if I want to really pour myself into a first five, where, like, maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's a guy that's got a, off to a great start. He's got an ERA of 2.5, and there's a guy on the other side that's got an ERA of 5.5. It's like, yeah, I think I want to go with the first five in this particular situation, depending on the juice. If it's heavily juiced, as obviously this one was, maybe it's a parlay situation. I pair it with something else I like, get something closer to even money, plus money, and see what I can turn that into. But the other caveat to this is, obviously, what do the bullpens look like? Because if it's a team that has an atrocious bullpen on the other side, I don't necessarily feel like I need to be as compelled to go to the first five. What if, heaven forbid, Luis Castillo allows a couple of runs and they're down 2-1 at the end of 5, and then Seattle scores 4 runs in the 7th and winds up winning the game because, again, Chicago stinks. So these are just all things that I think are worth considering, and I know we can explore it more on the other side.
Yeah, sounds good. We're going to teach people how to fish, not just give them one here on the grid.
That's right. Lead a horse to water, don't make him drink. We can come up with a lot of cliches. Just hang with us. We got time.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell, coast to coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
You see, what do we say, Dane? The Cubs, they can score in bunches. We outlined it perfectly for the people, and now, wouldn't you know, Chicago right back in Miami. What was once plus 420, 460, something like that on the money line when they were trailing 6-3. You said they're leading. FanDuel's still showing 6-6 right now, but everything is locked up. So are we looking at a 7-6 ball game now for the Cubs?
Yeah, I was seeing 7-6. That runner on third, I think, does in fact come home. Let me ask you an Art of War question about this, Adam, because like I always like to say, we're not just giving you a fish, we're teaching you how to fish. If you did get the Cubs at, what did you say, plus 420, something like that, now you could technically come on back and I'm
the other
saying
way?
you can get the Marlins at like plus 180. Right? Maybe not even for the same unit, maybe not even for the same money, but would you inherently kind of, in essence, lock in profit, which you could technically do at this point? I think it's a better question sometimes in NBA circles as opposed to maybe with a Major League Baseball game, right? But just philosophically, would you go ahead be like, hey, I'm moving the ball up the hill on this one, check the box and move on to the next one? Or just think that your plus 420 is a winner at this point, even though you have some liability for another 3 innings or so?
So just to update people, by the way, the Cubs are up 7-6, man on second, one down in the top of the 6th inning, and we have seen roughly $8, almost $9 of movement because the Cubs are now it's minus 410 on the Cubs, and like you said, plus 290 on the Marlins. To answer your question, so if Scott Wetzel were here, and he is normally in this time slot, obviously, weekdays here on SportsGrid, that man is a professional hedger. He is always looking to lock in profit. I would be curious if the man ever has a losing day, simply because he's just always looking for those edges to, prevent any opportunity from taking a hit. I am kind of the other way. Not that I want to like take big swings and I, like those bad days. Like, don't get me wrong, they're awful, but I am, there's something in my brain. Like this is just a fundamental characteristic of me. Maybe it's because I can be a little frugal at times, Dane. The idea of knowing that I am going to take a loss on something and intentionally doing it, I just have trouble with. And I realize, like, I totally get the other side of saying,
define loss, Adam.
Define. So I'll give you a good example. I do in the NBA, and when you brought up the NBA, you're talking about, totals and trying to middle or maybe middle spreads, that type of thing. I do a lot of builders in the NBA where it's alternate props for guys. And let's say I am down to the final leg of a, however, I can get a little silly with these things. I might have a 15-leg parlay on low alt point or rebound, assist props, whatever. And I'm down to the last one in the late game at night, and I've got, what's a good example? I got Jokic to get 8+ rebounds. And right. And it might be sitting there at halftime, and he's got 3, and Denver is up by 20 points. And I'm saying to myself, oh man, all right. So his live number is it's 7.5, and all right, I could take the under here, but I'm admitting that my parlay is gonna lose if I do it. But it doesn't look great for Jokic. Who knows how much he's going to play in the second half if the Kings don't go on a run or whatever it may be. And I have trouble hitting it. I have trouble clicking, place bet, knowing that I am sort of giving up on my parlay. And just it doesn't have to even, again, it's a hedge. It doesn't have to even out. It doesn't have to be, like you said, a full unit. And you're just sort of mitigating some of the damage on one side and coming out ahead for the grand being of the bet. I understand the sentiment. I have a lot of trouble doing it. So that's all a very long-winded way of answering. No, if I like the Cubs, I like the Cubs, and I invested in the Cubs at 4-1 because I think they're going to come back, and wow, they've actually done it. They've taken a lead. I don't want to go back on Miami because I invested in the Cubs thinking Miami was going to lose in the first place.
Listen, I hear you, but plus 420 and plus 290 is an interesting situation.
I know.
And you know what else? I know we got to hit a break, Adam, but I am going to test your theory, especially in the NBA, when we come back. I know we're going to talk a little bit more Major League Baseball, but I have a context for you in the NBA to see exactly how much you hold true to your hypothesis and your thesis on the idea of the hedge. And middling is different than the money line on both sides, because in the middle, you could win them both. And then we're going Sizzler, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm curious. Rob Donaldson is going to join us. Baseball talk. Much more of it on the way.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Cubs, they threatened. They had runners at second and third with only one down. The Marlins, they got out of it. So Chicago is leading still, but it's 7-6. A hell of a lot better than it could have been, at least if you're a Marlins fan. Of course, you'd probably still like to be up by 3. Not the case, as that one is heading to the bottom of the 6th inning. Miami, an opportunity to even things up. Mets, they're threatening again, man. But 2 down, top 6. Red Sox making another pitching change. It's still a 3-1 game there at Fenway. Let us bring in our first guest of the program, our good friend Rob Donaldson. He's a partner of Underdog. He's on Twitter at RobDFB, puts out YouTube videos, giving out picks, and a whole bunch of them across that Twitter page as well. Rob, welcome, bud. How are you?
Yeah, thank you for having me on, guys. And yeah, this Marlins-Cubs game has been pretty crazy, and I think it just kind of shows the volatility of throwing that bullpen into the mix, because everybody knows the Marlins are a second half and first half kind of team in a unique way.
Yeah, we were to that point getting into the conversation about first fives versus allowing the bullpens to impact your bets, which obviously from a side standpoint, you know, totals are one thing, but from a side standpoint, I mean, how many times do we see a big favorite go down in the later innings because, you know, the bullpen faltered and the other team, like the Rockies, steal one? I know it doesn't happen often, but it's, you know, it's infuriating, as we know, and we've all been on the wrong side of those things. So this is a conversation that we had earlier, Dane and I. I mean, how do you attack some of these first 5 debates when you feel like you've got a really trustworthy starter on the mound and a questionable team on the other side?
Yeah, I think it ultimately comes down to that question you just posed, right? Do you want your team's bullpen involved in the outcome of the game, and kind of vice versa? Do you want to see the other team's bullpen? Say you're taking on the Angels, I want to see that bullpen, and likely, unless I'm betting on the Nationals or betting on the Marlins, I'm going to have that bullpen edge. And you can even take it a step further and look at bullpen usage. If a guy, you know, if a closer is on a certain team and he's been used the last 2 days, well, doesn't matter if that team is up by 1 or 2 runs, you're not going to see that guy at the back end of a game. So I 100% think that factors into a handicap. And the player prop market in particular, too, that's the entire game scope, right? You can't take an over 1.5 total bases. So you have to kind of feel confident about that player kind of getting to a bullpen in that scenario.
Yeah, Rob, I really like what you're saying, not only in terms of the bullpen, but in the bullpen availability, right? Because you got to know who is actually going to be available that day. My guy Herm Edwards said the greatest ability is availability. But let me ask you, what you have going on in Chavez Ravine a little bit later on tonight? You got the Snakes and the Dodgers out there late night. Who do you like in that one? You got some props, you got some sides. What's on your card for Dodgers and Snakes?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a bunch of runs, and notably when you're looking at, both starting pitchers, and we've already seen Landon Knack actually get, kind of booted from the start for Dreyer, but this is going to be a bullpen game, more likely for the Dodgers, and then Brandon Pfaadt on the other side is a guy that I think is going to experience a lot of negative regression as we kind of head into mid-late May, and, as we're also kind of looking at just the lineup totality of the Dodgers, they have the perfect formula to get after a guy who pounds the zone with fastballs and is pitching from the right side. And for that reason, I like Max Muncy to go yard. I think Freddie Freeman has a day, and I would even take a shot on Michael Conforto, who tagged up Brandon Pfaadt a couple different times last series when they were playing in Arizona.
Game that starts coming up here in a few minutes out in Colorado. Philadelphia is making the trip, minus 250 favorite, that vicinity, depending on where you do your shopping. So you can get the Rockies at about 2-1 plus money here. Obviously, the Rockies are a terrible team, even though they've been marginally better of late than they were at the start of the year. Philadelphia comes in hot, second in the NL East and 3 straight wins to boot. But I'm just curious, when you're evaluating how you would want to bet a game like this, I'm sure there are a lot of people that have Philadelphia paired with another team in a money line parlay because obviously you don't want to lay the minus 250. I get that. But even with the run line, you're still looking at roughly minus 180. So is this for you just a Rockies or stay away spot given what the numbers look like?
Yeah, and notably, I would target a first 5 here with the Rockies because although Kyle Freeland is sort of a punching bag in a lot of different scenarios, and a lot of that comes with playing at Coors or just going on the road and kind of being the guy who's destined to be the stopper who can't stop. I look at, this matchup against the Phillies bats, and the Phillies are kind of running through their lefties right now. Those are the kind of dudes who are driving this lineup. And if Kyle Freeland can just neutralize them for 2 or 3 runs through the first 5 innings, which I think is actually somewhat reasonable, especially in sub 60-degree conditions, I actually think that the Rockies could hang around, and plus 1.5 through the first 5 innings is a pretty darn good bargain in that scenario.
Hey, Rob, you mentioned the Angels a little bit earlier on. It sounds like you may have their team total on your card. So I want to ask you about that. And along with that, what have you seen so far with the Athletics playing in Sacramento in that kind of bandbox there? There's been a lot of, whether it's Tampa playing in Steinbrenner Field, whether they're bringing the walls in Baltimore, there's been a lot of interesting ballpark factor shifts this year. Has that come to pass with the Athletics so far? And is that part of why you may like the team total for the Angels?
Well, I think it's interesting in Sacramento because I think it's twofold. Where is it a hitter-friendly stadium? Yes, but do the A's have a surprisingly good lineup that every single night has a lot of upside? Absolutely. A lot of young, active bats who are not just up there trying to take pitches. They're out there trying to gap doubles and hit bombs, and they're doing it. And I really don't think that there's going to be a slowing down factor with the A's offense in particular. But yeah, to your point, good hitting conditions, and the Angels lineup is kind of the side that I decided to take here, in large part because of kind of JT Ginn going out there and just getting smacked around every single start. And the Angels offense, as bad as this team might be on paper, their offense is really flourishing right now. And even the guys like a Yoan Moncada, who are in, year 20 or whatever, are going out there and actually producing. And that's a good sign right now.
Yeah, the Athletics have scored almost 200 runs this year, which puts them in, fairly tight company in the American League, at least anyway. A little bit more run support there in the National League. But, everything that Dane just brought up, to build on that, do you feel like the books have adjusted total-wise to these games in Sacramento? I mean, weeks ago, I was saying, I just blind bet the over in these games no matter who's playing every single game because it just feels like it's either hitting or at the very least you're going to be ahead more often than not. But, you have to allow again for those things to adjust over time. Do you think the books have adjusted to totals in Sacramento?
Yeah, we noticed it right out of the gate because when the Oakland A's were playing in the Coliseum, even if they were trotting out, who knows what, and, at Joey S, for example, you might see a total of 8.5. And this year from the jump, even when it was kind of sub-degree temperatures or sub-60-degree temperatures, rather, we were seeing totals of 9.5 in the early goings against the Cubs and teams like that. And so, yeah, I do think that the books have adjusted, but I still think there's a lot of value on it because, again, a hitter-friendly ballpark, and what kind of influences these totals are going to be the slated starting pitchers. And the A's, outside of Luis Severino, just don't have guys with a big notable brand name. And so unless the guy's coming into that building, I think every single over is kind of, billed to be a pretty good bet in that given day.
Hey, Rob. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you real quick. I mean, I'm a Puerto Rican from the Bronx who's a Yankee fan, right? So I got to ask you about what Aaron Judge is doing right now. I mean, he's literally 12-1 to be hitting 400 at the All-Star break. He's literally plus 130 to win the Triple Crown. How sustainable do you think it is from Judge? What are we really seeing here generationally?
I mean, this is a freak show, right? Because you would think that a guy hitting in the 400s isn't getting any bombs or hitting doubles. He's like a Zach Wilson, Luis Ariza type. And no, that's not the case. He's still going yard. He's still working those walks, and he's still putting balls in play that are going 110 miles per hour off the bat. I don't know how sustainable it is because I think it's a one-of-one sort of run here. But, man, it's been very fun, and it just is invigorating me for, being a fan of baseball.
I'm just laughing. The Puerto Rican of the Bronx who's a Yankee fan. We at SportsGrid really found the needle in the haystack, didn't we? We'll be back. Rob, stick around.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Pawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flauze Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell, coast to coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
We're back. Rob Donaldson hanging out here with us, giving us his baseball expertise. Just to update people, Cincinnati as opening things up there in Pittsburgh. We said it. We said it when it was plus money. I wish I had punched it in while I was talking about it. 4-1. The Reds are up now in Pittsburgh and looking for more. Now minus 3,500 on the money line, and that total is sitting at 6.5 there in the 8th. The Cubs, they continue to lead in Miami 7-6. The Mets still trail in Boston 3-1. Astros and Rays are back and forth. Tampa had tied it at 3. Houston got aboard again, and so now 4-3. The Astros are leading top 7 in that one. Seattle still the 1-0 lead in Chicago against the White Sox. That's in the 5th. Brewers up 3-1 on the Orioles. In the 5th inning, Cardinals a 1-0 lead on the Tigers. That's in the 4th. Philadelphia and Colorado are underway and scoreless going to the bottom of the 1st inning. But there's one game that we have yet to talk about, and that obviously involves Kansas City and San Francisco, Rob, here. It's not quite a pick-em, obviously. San Francisco is the favorite, but not an overwhelming favorite. Vicinity of minus 130, a total here of 7.5, given the pitching matchup. The expectation, lower scoring game. Do you feel the same way?
You know, I do. And a lot of times it's going to come down to Oracle, right? You know, you want to talk about park factors for the opposite side of the coin of, you know, a lot of runs being scored. Well, Oracle is the exact opposite because there's a lot of field to play with, especially when you have sub 60-degree temperatures and a large amount of wind coming in from the outfield too. So I look at that game and I see Bubic and Robbie Ray, two pitchers with low ERAs, but I think justifiably low, where I don't think there's going to be a ton of negative regression for either guy over the next month or so. And for that reason, I am looking at a kind of a low first 5 under, and also even just a full game under. I think they're going to eat up, 6 or 7 innings apiece in this game.
Hey, Rob, that's music to my ears because one of the things I'm on in this game is the starting pitcher for the Kansas City Royals, Kris Bubic, and I'm on him to go over his strikeout prop, which I heard earlier in the day at 4.5. I mean, he struck out 7 and 9 in his last 2 outings. He has been pretty good. And the Giants, I think as a team, strike out 24% of the time, which is, I think, 8th most in Major League Baseball. You put that all together, I think Bubic could get to 5. What do you say? Call me crazy?
No, coming into the year, I thought the Giants were going to be kind of like the Mariners of past years where, they're reliant on their pitching, but they just can't score runs. And a lot of the reasons the Giants are struggling to score runs right now is because they're striking out at the plate with runners in scoring position. That's been an issue all year round. So it is kind of reliant on Helio Ramos, Matt Chapman to go up there and produce. And if it isn't those guys in those premium spots with guys in position, I think you're sitting in a really good spot to cash that over.
We've talked about a lot of the scores and how teams are doing middle to late innings at this point in time. I know you give out a big card pre-games generally during the day, but are you much of an in-game bettor? Or, would you be looking at, for instance, the Rays to come back and win as, good-sized favorites coming into the day, but trailing midway through this game against Houston?
I would actually be looking at Houston, and I think they actually just put a run up on the board as we were talking. And, that was my angle kind of coming in where I thought the Astros were going to be able to give up, 4 or 5 earned runs through their pitching staff. But the offense, I think, is going to be able to really shine for the Astros here. And if you do want sort of a crazy little live bet appearance in terms of the exact result of a plate appearance, take Isaac Paredes to hit a home run. I really do like his matchup against his Rays bullpen, and he's been absolutely scorching balls. He's 2 for 3 already, and a lot of balls are over 100 miles per hour off the bat already in this game. I do think he could go yard at some point in this game.
And that's interesting, Rob, because Paredes I thought was such a gift and a curse. Like when he was in Tampa with the short porch in left, he was hitting bombs. He goes to Wrigley, not so much. Then all of a sudden with the Crawford boxes back there now in Houston, a lot of people thought that the power would absolutely come back. Taking over for Bregman, there is maybe no other dead pull hitter than a guy like Paredes, right? So I like what you're talking about there. And the fact that he's back then in Tampa Bay could be interesting. What are some of the other things you look for? Not even necessarily tonight, but kind of conditions. You're talking about bullpen availability. I was always talking about potentially looking at the over when guys are in their 70, 80 pitch count, their second and third time through the lineup. I like teams to score a run in the 5th and 6th inning, things of that nature. What are some of the other kind of conceptual things you look at when you are betting live?
Well, I look at a lot of these, and it's very interesting how this lines up, but when you're looking at left-handed power bats, and in particular in the player prop market, if there's a guy who's chucking fastballs, 50, 60% of the time, I don't like a lot of these left-handers because it seems more so that left-handers actually get their extra base hits and home runs off the breaking ball pitchers. So if you are looking at, say, the home run prop market for a guy like a Anthony Santander or a Bryce Harper or Kyle Schwarber, maybe don't target the dudes who are going to be pounding the zone with 95. Maybe target the guys like a Lance McCullers who might be throwing a 79 mile per hour breaking ball and just kind of hanging that one. Those are kind of one of the conceptions that I kind of look for, especially in the player prop market.
Anything that is jumping out to you, as we were talking before about Aaron Judge and running away with the AL MVP futures market right now in season, anything that you like? Is there any value that you're seeing from these teams that, might be kind of middling right now, but you expect them to make a nice second half run when we get there?
Yeah, I think there's a number of different teams. I really like the Rangers in kind of a buy low spot right now. If you want to believe in talent and if you want to believe in trade chips near the deadline, that's a team that we just know inherently is going to be going all in. And even if they're, maybe sitting 2 games outside of a wild card spot near the deadline, they have kind of shown that front office is going to be aggressive. They're going to go try to get their guys, and they're going to get healthier as the season goes on here. So I really do look at the Rangers as a team that I would really want to buy in on. And also, if you're looking at the NL Central, I may be a little bit biased, but the Cardinals are kind of sitting in a very similar spot where they do have trade chips. They have a rotation that's overperformed, and they have a lineup that is overperformed. If you want to take them to make the playoffs, I think that's a good future bet there too.
Rangers plus 850 on FanDuel to win the American League, 20-1 to win the World Series. Just something to think about. Rob Donaldson, always appreciate when you hop on, man. I'm sure we'll be bugging you again soon. There's a long, long baseball season. We are only about a quarter of the way through it. Check him out on Twitter at RobDFB. Thank you, sir.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times, but screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Our thanks to Rob Donaldson. I know we're going to get into some basketball parlay building hypotheticals around hedging, that type of thing in just a second, but I want to mention the Colorado Rockies bottom one took a lead. So it's 1-0. Colorado is leading at home against the heavily favored Philadelphia Phillies coming into this game. Top two now. Phillies are batting, but not as heavy a favorite. Still a heavy favorite in the grand scheme of things, but not as heavy a favorite. We were talking about minus 250 for Philadelphia and minus 180 on the run line. Get them by multiple runs. Right now, Philadelphia minus 160, minus 170 on the money line. So there is value if you expect Philadelphia to come back and win this game. But I know, obviously, Dane, we were going to take this in a different direction. Go ahead.
Yeah. And by the way, the minus 110 on the run line now for Philly is palatable, to be sure, right? So maybe that's a way to do it. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, one bet that I have been doing now in the NBA, especially in the playoffs, is at some of the books, you can get teams to be down by 10 and to come back and win. Okay.
Right.
And the NBA is a game of runs. We continue to talk about that. And usually it's between 5 and 6 to 1. Okay. I like this bet because how many times do you see it? Teams are coming back from down 10, down 15. But inherently, Adam, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to bet it on both teams, right? I'm going to bet, like, for example, tomorrow we're going to be Minnesota and OKC. I'm going to bet Minnesota to be down by 10 and come back to win the game. But I'm also going to bet the Thunder to be down by 10 and come back and win the game. Like I said, it's usually about plus 550, maybe 6 to 1. So I am chopping it in half, and I'm getting these both at about 3 to 1. But to your point, Adam, right? Like, one of those bets is going to lose. However, how many times do you see that by the time we're in the middle of the third quarter, both teams have been up by double digits at some point in the game, and it's a guaranteed win? So would you, in that scenario, do a bet like that on only one side, or would you put the chip on both sides?
Well, so here's one thing that you said that's wrong. You said one of those teams is going to lose. It's entirely possible both those bets are going to lose if you just never see a 10-point lead in the game. You know, that's plausible as well. But obviously in today's NBA, it just sort of feels like a game at some point in time is double digits. So I agree with you on that. I suppose the difference between this, because I have played this, and when I have played this, I have sprinkled both, to your point. Okay. I think you need to be on both sides of it. But that is different than I was talking about when you're already, you know, in position to win a bet, basically, and all of a sudden you're potentially getting greedy and looking for a middle opportunity where it's, oh, can I turn this one win into 2 wins? Or you're looking for that hedge opportunity if, like I'm down to my last leg of a parlay and I might not quite get there. Do I accept defeat on that and invest in the other side because I like the plus money number? That's totally different in-game sort of thinking. This, what you're outlining, is obviously a pregame bet like any other bet. You know, you're investing in a guy to hit a home run. You're investing in a guy to score a touchdown. You're investing in a guy to score a goal. Like, these are things that just might not happen. It's a bet, right? And so if you are investing in this particular market, I think the only way to invest in this market is to take both sides of it and hope that you're going to get that comeback from at least one of those teams. So yeah, I like the bet. I haven't done it much. In fact, I'm not sure I've done it this season at all, but I did do it a little bit last year. And then I saw books had taken it away for a bit. And then I just kind of never looked to see, you know, when they started offering it again. I'm sure the odds have dramatically changed from what they once were. But again, fundamentally speaking, I like it. It's a fun bet to sweat. I mean, it would have cashed for you yesterday if you took it on Oklahoma City in Game 7, down by 11 points, 12 points in the opening quarter and coming back for the blowout win. So that stuff, for sure, it's always fun.
I'm just saying, you were not going to necessarily go back on Miami because you knew inherently one of your bets were going to lose. If you make this kind of bet, you know one of those bets are going to lose. But Adam, I think tomorrow here on In Game Live, we need to do that. T-Wolves to come back from 10 down and the Thunder to come back from 10 down. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun one. I agree with you. And I know we haven't on this show talked about that series at all, or Knicks Pacers either. We'll get to it obviously in the final hour of the show, but you know, just more extensively. But for sure, I think that, you know, what we have seen from really all of these teams, but in particular the Western Conference, the one that we'll be sweating tomorrow night, both these teams, I mean, how often where they downed sizable numbers and then came back to win in each of their previous series, Minnesota with Golden State and OKC obviously against Denver. So I like it. Good side to be on. We're going to need to shop it around, find the best odds on it, and hopefully we can turn that into some cash. Hopefully tonight's profitable first. I'm going to need a little bit of help in the baseball world, it feels like right now. We'll continue to keep you posted when we come back, getting some hockey and baseball. George Kurtz, the one, the only, is going to join us next.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
We're halfway home on In-Game Live Game Day here on SportsGrid. Thanks for hanging out with us, whether listening on SportsGrid Radio, Sirius XM Channel 159, checking us out across the bevy of ways that you can watch SportsGrid TV, or even on social media, SportsGrid and SportsGrid TV Twitter accounts. George Kurtz is our next guest. Joins us, a regular host and analyst here across the SportsGrid airwaves with Dane Martinez. I'm Adam Kaufman. Kurtzy, you were not on with Brady Cannon and I last night, but I did this. I had this little rant, and I won't do the whole thing again right now for anyone out there that already heard it. That would just be boring. But I was talking about the difference between the NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs, in that really the sport changes from the regular season to the postseason. In the NBA, it's not weird. It's not unusual to get blowouts. In 5 of 12 series that have gone at least 6 games here in this postseason, we have already seen decisive games decided by 19, 14, 32, and 38. That's embarrassing. You look at the NHL, though, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and going into last night, I made this whole big thing about hockey's different. You don't see this in hockey. You don't get blowouts in decisive games in hockey. 7 of 12 series have gone to 6+ games, and every single one of those game 6s or game 7s has been a 1-goal game, if not for an empty net being scored. So 1-goal games across the board until that loser franchise, the Toronto Maple Leafs, steps in last night and gets absolutely pummeled, at home no less, by the defending champion Florida Panthers. I mean, that could not have been, regardless of the side you were on, the type of game you were expecting to sync up or cinch who Carolina was going to face in the Eastern Conference Finals?
You know, that's probably not the rant you want to have for a Toronto Maple Leaf playoff game. That's the thing there. It's like, think about it. When a baseball manager, when he calls a meeting, when does he call a team meeting? When his ace pitcher is starting the next day against a terrible team. And you don't think it's going to go, oh, it's because of the team meeting that we won that game, 17-0 here. Not the fact that your ace dominated a bad team here. I mean, we can't be surprised about the Maple Leafs yesterday. We can't be that. We can't be surprised that Florida blew them out. It was sort of expected here. I am more surprised that Toronto won Game 6 than I am that they lost 6-1 last night. All right, that doesn't surprise me. That's the Toronto Maple Leafs we know. The fact that they won Game 6 2-0 in Toronto, that's the surprise. All right, to me, at least to me anyway. We've seen this over and over again from the Toronto Maple Leafs. We don't have a right to be surprised by it anymore. We don't. All right, so they're done. They're going to change the team. Mitch Marner's all but gone there. Tavares is likely gone as well. They'll sign Matthew Knees. They have to, another nice up-and-coming player, but they need to change the culture there. That's the bottom line here. I have Dallas versus Florida in the finals. I've had it since round 1. I am not changing here. I think the best overall teams. I think the Florida-Carolina series is interesting. I think it'll be boring, all right, because Carolina plays a boring style, right? They're not going to open things up. They don't have those kinds of players, all right? So I think it's going to be a dull series here. Florida, they're almost the same type of team. Right? Carolina, they're a dump-in team, shoot everything on net. All right, everything on net. We'll crash the net. We'll look for rebounds, deflections, all that stuff. We don't have the talent to go around people. Florida is almost of a similar ilk, right? They don't have a whole bunch of offensive talent either. And I'm of the belief, by the way, that Matthew Tkachuk is still hurt. I don't think he's anywhere near 100%. I know no one's 100%, but you get my point here. So I think that series is going to be kind of boring. I lean towards the under in a lot of those games, including Game 1 here, until I'm proven wrong there. So we'll see how that works out. The rest versus rush theory as well. It seems like Carolina's had a month off since we've last seen them, so we'll see how that goes. But the bottom line is this. Not surprised at all by the Toronto Maple Leafs choking last night.
I was going to ask you, George, to spin it forward, but it sounds like you've given me the inklings of what you believe in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? You like the Panthers. They are kind of short favorites in this series. You like maybe going the under on some of these games against Carolina. I guess the original 6 are kind of rolling over in their graves. We got like Southeastern teams taking over in the NHL. Let's go out west, right? Where we've got the Stars and the Oilers are back there. Edmonton is a short favorite in this series. What do you think happens out west?
Now, this is the more interesting series. I guess a fun series. You look about a ratings winner, this is probably going to be your ratings winner, right? Because you should get more goals here. Of course, you got McDavid, you got Draisaitl. So, of course, we're going to get more goals. Dallas, by the way, this is a team, they can run 4 lines at you, and this is the strength of their team. Yeah, of course, they have their superstars, all right? You got your Mikko Rantanen, you got your Duchesne, your Hintz, Wyatt Johnson. Yeah, but they also have, they can go line 3. I mean, Dodonov was playing on line 4. Think about this. If Jenny Dodonov, a decent NHL player, was on line 4, they can keep rolling these lines after you. Robertson, who has 1 point so far in the playoffs, he started late with the injury. He should be getting more acclimated to playoff hockey now. Same with Miro Heiskanen. They're only going to get better. All right, I am a big fan of the Dallas Stars. In my mind, whoever won that first round between Dallas and Colorado, that was the team that was going to the Stanley Cup from the West. All right, so Dallas won. There you go there. Now, when it comes to Dallas versus Edmonton, we know Dallas has the better defense. That's not saying much. Most teams have a better defense than Edmonton. They also have the much better goaltender. I know Skinner had back-to-back shutouts against Vegas. I think Vegas, by the way, they got beaten to hell by Minnesota. Just weren't in any shape to really take on anybody in the next round here. I'm not knocking Edmonton, but Dallas is a different opponent. All right, they don't have any weaknesses here. Sure, Edmonton has the better top of the offense here. If you're playing in a fantasy league, McDavid and Draisaitl are going 1-2, but if the next 8 players roll on Dallas, and that's the issue here. McDavid and Draisaitl are going to have to be superstars to keep this close here. I'm not changing my mind here. Edmonton's played great. Skinner's been fantastic in that. I'm going to have Dallas in 6.
In terms of opening things up, though, you mentioned obviously it could be a boring series in the East given low offensive production, and the books would agree with you. We're looking at right around minus 135 to the under, which means plus money, obviously, to the over. As far as the Western Conference, though, you got to bump it up a goal, and then you get similar odds. 6.5 is the total, minus 140 to the under on FanDuel, plus 115 to the over in that one. Do you think that we're going to, see things more opened up, that we're going to get some of those, 4-3 games, 5-2 games here in this series to where you should be investing in the over?
Well, it's sort of like last night. Think about the Toronto-Florida game. All right, the over-under was 5.5, but they wanted you to take the over. They were giving you plus 138. All right, now I thought the game was going to go under, but I said it in game live. I'm taking the over. Listen, I'm taking the plus 140. I think it was the under was at minus 172, Adam, or something like that. The under was nuts.
Right.
It was just nuts to take. You couldn't take the under. And by the way, FanDuel in New York, even if you go the alternate line, I wasn't getting any flats. I was getting 7.5, 6.5, 5.5, 4.5. There were no 5s, 4s, 3. I couldn't bet those, or else I would have.
Yeah.
If I could have found a 5, I would have bet a 5. I would have, but I couldn't find that there. So I took the over just because you gave me too good a price here. Now, I had mentioned several times throughout these shows, I had given up on unders, all right, because I had lost in the first round. I was losing unders on all the empty net goals, and it was whatever hair I have left, I was ripping out. All right, so I was angry. So I stopped betting it. But the last couple of games of round 2, I went back to, okay, I think it's going to be an under here. So I'm going to start with the under, but I'm not laying that price. So if I'm going to lay that price, I'm going to have to parlay it with a baseball game. All right, and by the way, there'll be plenty of parlays to find there. All right, Colorado Rockies play every night, last I saw. I probably won't be betting against the Angels as they screwed me over the weekend. But there'll be plenty of parlays I can find if I want to go with that. Saturday night with you was not fun. It didn't go any better yesterday. How the hell did they get swept by the Angels? I'm with Gabe next. I have a little talk with Gabe next. I'm not happy with him either.
I'm going to ask you more about these series when we come back on the other side, Adam. I want to know if these series are going to go long, in your opinion, George. But we'll talk about that more on the other side, right, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wanted to get into with George whether or not we were going to see a Canadian team finally win. Obviously, we got one. You know, Winnipeg didn't get it done. Toronto didn't get it done. Edmonton's still here. But the man's already told me he likes Dallas. Could we get an Edmonton, Florida rematch, though? What are the FanDuel odds on that exacta? We'll explore.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Pages. Let's get lucky.
Kurtzy hanging out another segment. We're talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs. If we have an opportunity, we'll get into some baseball with him as well. Of course, there are still games in front of us tonight to explore, but I was just talking about the exact matchup market of the Stanley Cup final. Last year, we saw Florida against Edmonton, specifically in a Game 7, Florida beating Edmonton, George. And again, these two teams are available to us in the Final Four here. You've got Edmonton to beat Florida 5-1. That is actually the betting favorite right now on FanDuel. Florida over Edmonton, that is a plus 550 co-second with the Panthers to beat the Stars. And then obviously you get into some of these other matchups. You've already expressed that you like the Stars, though. So if you had to handicap right now what you think the exact outcome is going to be, what's it look like to you?
All right, so I do have I have Dallas versus the Panthers, so I think they're both going to win their series. I'll take both in 6 games. It's just it's the most popular of series win 6. So I'll take that. So I have Dallas and the Panthers in the finals. I mean, it'd be the 3rd straight year for the Panthers, right? They lost to Vegas, beat Edmonton. They'd be there this year again against the Stars. I don't think the Panthers are quite the same team as they were. I think they are a little bit beat up here. A lot of respect for Bobrovsky. They played very well. I think it'll be a great series, by the way. Once again, 2 similar teams. Florida is very deep as well. I don't think they're quite as deep as Dallas. I think this will be a great it'll be a hockey series. It'll be a great Stanley Cup final. It's not just, okay, we got to stop McDavid, we got to stop Draisaitl, we win the game. Dallas is not that kind of team, and neither is Florida. They have all a mixture of different kind of players. I'm going to go Dallas over Florida. And I've already bet this, by the way, because you got better odds back last round. Dallas over Florida in 6. That's what I'm going to go with.
Hey, George, you just mentioned this, right? Dallas, you like Florida, and you said you think they both advance in the conference finals in 6 games. Both of these conference finals, they're hanging 5.5 in terms of total games for those series. Do you expect long series? Because if you do on both sides, you put them both together, right? Both the Eastern and Western Conference finals to go over 5.5 games. I can get you something like plus 120, plus 125. Is that something you'd be interested in? Or do you think the Stars or the Panthers can kind of handle business a little bit easier?
Yeah, we talked about this. I forget with who. It might have been with Adam. I don't remember, but we talked about this over the weekend, and I'm already on this because I like this. Okay,
Really
I think
nice.
both series. Yeah, even though 6 is the most popular, which is why I take it. I truly believe they're going 6. Right? Like Carolina and Florida are the same exact team. This could go 7 easily. Could it be unlucky? Could it be a 5-gamer? Sure. If you listen to Rob Brindamore's press conference at one point when they got swept by Florida last time they played, he says, "Oh, we didn't get swept." Well, yeah, you did. No, every game was close. It could have gone either way. Well, yeah, but you got swept. But it lets you know that it was so close it could have gone either way here. And I do believe that series could have gone either way. So, yes, I expect it to be at least 6, if not 7 here. I am probably a little bit more worried about Dallas, Edmonton, because, when things go bad for Edmonton, they go bad. All right? I mean, Skinner could fall apart. And all of a sudden, it's not even close. Skinner does need to be on top of his game here. I don't expect – if it's going to go 5 or a sweep, I don't think it'll be Edmonton doing that to Dallas. I think it'll be Dallas doing that to Edmonton. So, like I say, as long as Edmonton isn't just playing a decent game, they'll need to be great, but as long as they're playing decent, they'll make it at least 6. They're going to win a couple of games, especially on home ice. They're too good a team here. But that'd be the one series I'd worry that maybe Dallas could take care of business in 5.
George, let's do a little baseball with you. We got 3 games still to start tonight. The first of which will be in about a half hour. The Royals at the Giants. We also have the Angels and the Athletics. Top of the hour just after we sign off. And even a few minutes after that one, the Diamondbacks and Dodgers. Let's start with the late one. To me, the Dodgers feel like the right side. And I understand their favorites right around minus 145. It's not that. For me, it's the fact that the Dodgers should be embarrassed off of what has happened to them lately, including the 3 straight losses coming into this game. But I can't bet it. I can't bet it simply because these teams faced off, last week and split in a 4-game series. Arizona has a potent offense, same as LA. I just don't feel like, in a matchup of Pfaadt and Dreyer, that there's this decisive enough pitching edge for me on the LA side to say, yeah, Dodgers, you've screwed me each of the last 3 days in parlays, but I think you get it back tonight.
And you know what? They're going to screw me again tonight because I bet Arizona. Now Dodgers are going to win. They're going to win tonight. Listen, I'm not looking for revenge. I'm not betting against the Dodgers because they screwed me over the weekend. Okay, that's not it. Brandon Pfaadt's a decent pitcher. All right, maybe even above decent. I kind of like Brandon Pfaadt. I don't think he gets enough love. Could he have could he be terrible tonight? Of course he can. But they got what? Fred Dreyer, Jack Dreyer. Is it Hunter, the ex-Ram? I mean, I don't know what's going on here, but the Dodgers, their pitching staff is really beat up. All right, and most of these guys are not very good. So I expect Arizona to win the game. I do, and I'm going the over as well. You're going to give me minus 108. I'm going to take a chance. It's a really high scoring game. It's 10. I really wouldn't advise this.
Yeah.
All right, but I'm looking for runs tonight for both sides here. I'm also on the Arizona team total over. So maybe I am picking it against the Dodgers tonight. Maybe I am subconsciously angry at them. But yeah, I'm going to go with Brandon Pfaadt. But I'm the first person to tell you, I mean, we're trying to make money here on a 4-game losing streak for the Dodgers at home. That's dangerous and probably not the smart thing to do.
George, I have sat next to you in Yankee Stadium before in my life, and I haven't been able to ask you about this. I talked to Rob about this earlier in the show. Aaron Judge, 12-1 to be hitting 400 at the All-Star break, plus 130 to win the Triple Crown in the American League this year. His last 162 games are like Bonzian, if that is even a verb or an adjective. What are we seeing here, my friend?
Well, he's not going to hit 400 by the All-Star break. All right, he's not. All right, it's not going to happen.
He's climbing, George, and climbing. He's going to go 1 for 2.
No, he's not hitting 400. Let's be realistic. He's not hitting 400. No one's ever hitting 400 again. All right, not in today's rules. Where everybody's throwing the ball 110 miles an hour. It's not happening. Triple Crown is a completely different story. He was close last year. What did he lose the average by? It was under 10 points, right, to Witt. So I think he's going to win it this year. I think that's the new thing, right? It won't be the home run record. He's going to move Triple Crown this year. You know, he's going to have everything in his resume. So I think it's a much better chance that he wins the Triple Crown this year. I don't expect 400 to happen here. You just need to be too lucky to get all that. And it's like I said, the fact that everybody throws 100 miles an hour, and that's not even a joke. It's too hard in today's game. It's just too hard. And sooner or later, by the way, everyone's going to start walking Judge. You know, great that Bellinger is hitting well behind him now because they need that. But sooner or later, they're just going to stop pitching to the guy.
George is on Twitter at George Kurtz. He will be the first to tell you print the T-shirts. Bot pitchers, he'd love to. Thanks, Kurtzy. Good luck tonight.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell, coast to coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Thanks once again to George Kurtz. He'll be on a little bit later on Sports Rage. He will join Cam Stewart, who's going to join us on this show a little bit later on as well, about 25 minutes from now. Right now, you got Dane, you got me, Adam. Hi, good to see you. You were just saying during the break, Dane, that you are rolling with Kurtz. You're doing the over 5.5 parlay with the 2 hockey series, Eastern and Western Conference. Just have long series. Just give us 6+ games, cash your plus money bet. What was the plus money on that parlay, by the way?
I got to plus 125. It was minus 210 on both of them, I do believe, which got me to plus 120, 125, something like that. And I guess the way I look at it, that's why I wanted to ask George about it first, right? But the way my brain looks at it, Adam, and again, I'm no hockey sharp, but I just like to respect the guys who are the smart people in the room. I'm going to ask Cam the same thing in a couple of minutes, right? But when I see inherently that the favorite of the series is minus 120, right? I see Edmonton at minus 118 for the series. I see Florida at minus 120, 125. They think it's almost a coin flip, right? So in that kind of situation, it's not going to be some kind of sweep. It's not going to be some kind of 4-1 game. And truth be told, right? Let's say, to your point, we were talking about have the parlay and then maybe hedge later on, right? Let's say I've already got the Eastern Conference Finals that's at 2-2, and the Western Conference Finals is 3-1. I'll just bet that other team to win game 5. You know what I mean? And extend the series. I have outs, if you will, right? When I could still go a week and a half later and still be able to kind of mitigate my risk on that. But I like what George said. I looked at it the same way. I'll say plus 123 or whatever it was for me, sure.
All right, so given the reasoning that you just outlined, the answer to this next question from me is probably going to be no, but I will allow you the opportunity to prove me wrong. That question is, would you do the same thing in the NBA? Thunder Timberwolves and Pacers Knicks, because Pacers Knicks, that's basically, again, a coin flip series. But the Thunder, they are overwhelming favorites to beat Minnesota. And there are many people that think, probably not a sweep, but gentleman's sweep happens in 5 games. Maybe it doesn't go to 6. Therefore, that parlay would be dead. What's your expectation on the hardwood?
Yeah, I have to recuse myself from this as a New Yorker who is a Knicks fan. I already told you about this, Adam. I don't know if I can do it. I will say this. On the Western Conference, I think Minnesota is live in this. First of all, I believe they split the season series 2 games apiece. I think Minnesota is one of these ascending teams. They got their experience last year. I think they are a better team than they were last year. But we've been talking a lot about the emotional hedge of it all, okay? And so I am a Knicks fan. All right. The Knicks have not been to the NBA Finals in a long time. The Knicks have not won a championship since the early 70s. Talk about emotional hedge. I have already talked to my friends, talked to the gambling gods, and I asked myself the question, am I okay spending a couple of $100 down the drain to the gambling gods if it means the Knicks win an NBA championship? So, as an emotional hedge, I have already bet the Indiana Pacers to win the Eastern Conference Finals at plus 130 because either I'm hitting that bet or my Knicks, bing bong, are in the NBA Finals. So while I'm not necessarily recommending that, we've been talking about the emotional hedge a lot on this show. I have already done that, and I hope my bet loses.
So I'll tell you what, and people who have heard me on these airwaves in recent days already know this, but I would make that bet. And if there's no emotional hedge for me, it's not me like angry at the Knicks for knocking out my Celtics. No, this is me, looking at this rematch that we have of the 2000 Eastern Conference Finals between New York and Indiana, and simply looking at the way these two teams have played through 2 rounds of the playoffs and believing that the books have this wrong, that Indiana is the better team. Now, that doesn't mean we won't get a long series. I'm not saying, I think Oklahoma City, Minnesota, I think that's a walk in the park. I think the Thunder win this series in 5. Maybe it goes to 6, and we can talk more about that. But as far as this series goes, 6, 7, of course. Nothing's going to surprise me to that end. And I'll tell you what, if it is 3-3 going back to MSG, it'd be awfully damn hard to go against the Knicks in that spot, which is all the more reason why, if I believe in the Pacers, as I do, if you want to bet exact score, Pacers in 6 probably makes a lot more sense. But I like Indiana in this set. I'd be curious to know, and you can really expand upon it in our next segment because I know you're right up against it now, but I'd be curious to know what it is removing any personal bias, that you look at these two teams and say, yeah, the Knicks, like Vegas is right. The Knicks are the better team. Maybe not a considerably better team, but they're the better team for this reason, that reason, beyond the WWE Jalen Brunson against Tyrese Halliburton, right? We'll get into it when we come on back. Dane and I talk some NBA playoffs. We're down to 4, baby.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times, but screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully, if you're watching or listening, you agree. Dane and I think we've had a fun show. It's been a good time this last hour and a half. We're not done yet. Cam Stewart joins us in a little while. But tomorrow promises to be even better because in addition to baseball, there's also a WNBA game happening right now. But in addition to all of that, tomorrow we are going to have Game 1 between the Thunder and the Timberwolves. We're also going to have the start of the conference finals there, the Panthers and Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Finals in the NHL. So NBA, NHL, those playoffs resume tomorrow. They're going to be on opposite us, so we can live sweat, in-game bet, all that good. It's going to be awesome. But right now we're still in preview mode here, and I guess we will be tomorrow as well, looking ahead to the Wednesday game ones. But right now, Dane, we're in preview mode, and we're talking about your Knicks and I don't know, I guess for betting purposes, my adopted Pacers as it stands. And I'm not a big Pacers guy, but I do have nothing but respect for the way that they have played throughout this postseason. I think they have been excellent so far in what we have seen, looking back specifically, the gentleman's sweep of the Bucks. Now, I know that's not totally fair. No Damian Lillard, basically. Yeah. Giannis was all alone, wasn't even necessarily 100%, but they win in 5. And then, steal some against Cleveland, take them out in 5 as well. Knock off a 60-plus win team, top team in the Eastern Conference. They dealt with a slew of injuries as well, the Cavaliers. But the Pacers, whatever. I'm never going to condemn a team's path on the way to a championship. You play the teams you got on the other side. If there are injuries, so be it. Take advantage of the situation, go out there, get the job done. And that's exactly what they're doing. Your Knicks, meanwhile, it's had to be a little sweaty, right? I mean, they had to go 6 in a dramatic series with the Pistons. We got all sorts of clutch Jalen Brunson throughout that one, including the dagger to take them to the next round to face the defending champion Celtics, who, again, a team that was not right, lost Jason Tatum late in that series. We find out the torn meniscus for Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis dealing with a plague of sorts. I mean, the Celtics clearly were not themselves, but that does not discount the fact that the Celtics blew double-digit leads in 4 out of the 5 games that they, or all 4 games, pardon me, that they lost in that series, or 3 out of the 4, I should say. Actually, the final one they never sniffed a lead in that game, but in 3 out of the 4 they were up by 20 plus points basically and fell apart. And so credit the Knicks for their resiliency, for the moxie, for the depth, the way they stepped up and got the job done. I think we get a good series here against the Pacers. But my question for you is, what gives the Knicks the advantage in your mind?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say it's been an honor and a privilege. It has been a blast. You got to come on back tomorrow. We're putting the fun in functional sports betting content right here on In Game Live. That's why it is smarter to be on the grid. But Adam, I think you answered your own question in the kind of framing of the question. I am not going to begrudge Indiana for their path, like you said, right? But they did get a kind of dead man walking Milwaukee Bucks team. They did get a banged up Cleveland team. You saw Mitchell was banged up, Garland was banged up throughout that series. Meanwhile, call it moxie, call it grit, whatever you want. I think as you go through the playoffs, that's actually a benefit to the Knicks to see how they have performed on the road. I give the Detroit Pistons a lot of credit. They were a young ascending team that the Knicks had to kind of beat on the road. Even early on in that series, they needed a 21-0 run in the fourth quarter to steal one of the first couple of games at Madison Square Garden. And I think that's the kind of experience that you need. I think that's good to put kind of in the muscle memory when you do expect a long series. And I do expect this to be a long series. Now, the Pacers have been really, really good in the entire second half of the regular season, right? They have been performing as a top seed. So I am not begrudging them at all. They are very well coached. They are very even. Guys like Halliburton is a closer. However, I think Brunson is a better closer. If there is a close game, I believe in Brunson in the kind of clutch times more than I believe in Halliburton, okay? First of all, Brunson was the clutch player of the year. Brunson is on an absolute run right now, not only in just the points. I think it's also something like 30-8 a game and has only been done a few times. So when it comes to that closer aspect, I like Brunson and the Knicks over Halliburton and Indiana. I also believe that the experience in the first couple of rounds for these playoffs is a benefit for the Knicks, the kind of battle-tested moxie, whatever you want to call it. I think that is helpful for the Knicks. And then when you look at last year, okay, Adam, like the Knicks were running on fumes, right? Like Brunson broke his hand. We were so banged up. And I think health is the other answer to your question, okay? When I take these teams that are, largely similar to what we saw last year, the Knicks are far more healthy, far more battle-tested, and I do believe that when the chips are down, I will ride with Brunson and the Knicks. But I agree, this is going to be a very entertaining and I do believe a long series. The one place we differ is over in the Western Conference, where I think Minnesota is going to steal a game or two. Just like we talked about with Kurtz, both of these conference finals going over 5.5. I don't think it's the Thunder in a sweep or a gentleman sweep. I would also be interested in both conference finals in the NBA going above the 5.5 with the same kind of bet. I do think maybe OKC is the best team in the NBA. They have been all season. Their defense is under-respected, but I do think Minnesota is going to steal a game or two.
As soon as Boston was trending toward going down, let's say went down 3-1 against the Knicks, and obviously the injury to Jason Tatum completely removed the Celtics from the conversation. As soon as Boston suffered that fate where it seemed like the Knicks series win was inevitable, I started saying to anyone who would listen, to me, the NBA champion is going to come out of the OKC Denver series, which made it all the more exciting when we got to Game 7, because it was like, holy, like this to me titles on the line here, because whichever one of these teams it's going to be, they're going to make mincemeat out of Minnesota, and they're going to knock off whoever it is, Indy or New York, coming out of the East. Do you agree with that? Do you agree that Oklahoma City is just so far and above the other three teams that are still remaining in the fight right now, if, and this is always the big if, OKC stays healthy?
I do. I do. I got to tell you the truth. Back in February, I got at like 20-1 the exact result of OKC over Cleveland in the NBA Finals. So I've been on OKC at the beginning of the season. I had SGA to be the MVP. I really all the way back in the offseason, I love the kind of moves they made. I thought getting guys like Hartenstein, getting guys like Caruso were the perfect kind of additions for this kind of team, right? So I do believe in them. I do think they are a cut above. The only thing for me is that there's levels to this, right? In the NBA, it's a process, and you kind of have to lose before you can win. And there is a part of me that thinks that Minnesota got some of that experience last year against Dallas, that Ant-Man, that it wasn't Randall, right? But some of these guys in Minnesota are kind of a little bit further on in that process. I don't think they're going to beat Oklahoma City. But to me, you said the one caveat was health. To me, the one other caveat for the Thunder could be if there's just kind of a longer term process for them to fully realize their championship potential. But ultimately, I do think the Thunder win it, and I think they win it because of their defense.
Well, look, it's an incredibly young roster, obviously. And, some of those growing pains, like you said, I mean, they've been through it a little bit. Like, they obviously had an early exit in the playoffs last year, but people's expectations last year weren't what they are this year. And the fact that they were able to pass some of those tests while screwing some up along the way against Denver as well. We remember what happened in a couple of those late game collapses where they basically coached themselves out of victories. I think you learn from those things, like you've said, with some of these other teams, and that may be enough, coupled with skill and depth, to put them over the top against Minnesota. But we can talk more about that, including previewing it before it starts tomorrow night. When we come on back, we pull the ripcord with Cam Stewart.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times, but screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I have done enough shows with our next guest, Cam Stewart, to know that the man he's dialed in everywhere. He's dabbling on everything. There's no game that he is not interested in betting, especially if he is on air opposite it taking place, which is why I am confident we can get into some late night baseball with Mr. Stewart. But we welcome him in. Cam, of course, will follow this show on with Gabe Morency, Sports Rage. Cam, great to see you, buddy.
Adam, nice to see you again. Dane, you brought in Martinez, old school. We're going old school with DM here. What's going on here, Dane? Yeah, no, I'm with you guys. After the show, we'll break down the CFL actually tonight on Sports Rage. Football never ends, guys. You guys know every single league. So Gabe will break it down. We'll have some futures and talk about some changes around the Canadian Football League and maybe have a couple early bets. So stay tuned to that. It'll be a fun year. Yeah, guys, late baseball. Taking a shot with the Kansas City Royals tonight against Robbie Ray, plus 114 on my FanDuel account. I think they're in a little bit of a spot play tonight. I like the way the Royals are playing. And other than that, you don't like to go against the Dodgers. You want a little bit more. But Arizona's a team, you know, I look at those guys. I heard what you guys were saying about the basketball. I guess, Adam, I kind of lean with Dane. I look at Minnesota as a different type of team. I'm not going to say they're going to beat Oklahoma City, and Denver gave Oklahoma City everything they could handle till Game 7, but Minnesota's grown and they've gotten tougher and they're kind of battle tested. And I think they're a team that can really let's remember one thing about OKC, they're damn good, but they're young. And Minnesota has a lot of veterans on their team that are like, okay, we've been there, done that, lost in heartbreaking fashion. And I just think it's going to be an absolute dogfight. So to Dane's point, 6 or 7 games makes a lot of sense to me. I think both series are extended. And as for you, Dane, I know you're a Knicks fan. Don't take anything away from the Pacers. These guys are a damn good basketball team. They're playing fast. The Knicks look great. It's just, I think it's going to be an all-out war. And the series price tells you, like, the Knicks aren't minus $2. They're minus $1.48, $1.50. So people think the Pacers can play. I'd look at both underdogs in the series on the spreads price. We had Indiana last series. Gabe and I, we didn't have the stones to take them on the money line, but this Indiana team is really, really good and kind of sneaky long, too. Don't you guys think? Like, Dane, when you look at these guys, like, they're longer and leaner and meaner than people kind of think when they're on the floor. They have a lot of guys and they can score. They can score the basketball. So I think it's going to be an absolute dogfight. Lean Knicks to get it done in the end, but would not be shocked if it went 7.
Cam, I completely agree with you. I'm not shortchanging the Pacers here at all. I just have to, what I have seen out of Jalen Brunson in this playoff run when the chips are down in the clutch situation, I'm going to continue to ride with him. And if you're talking about length, it's not like my guys Bridges and OG don't have some length as well that can kind of counterbalance that. And I love the way the Knicks can score. They can go to Cat, they can go to Brunson, they got Deuce and guys like that from beyond the arc. But when we need a basket, there has been nothing prettier than the Mikal Bridges mid-range jumper on the move. It is almost automatic, but I digress. Cam, I got to ask you about the NHL playoffs. We were joking during the break about the egg that the Toronto Maple Leafs laid, right? So now we have Florida moving on as a short favorite against the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Finals. How do you like that series to go?
I think it's going to be a fantastic series. And I think Carolina going into it, a lot of people just look at this team and I think they can play with Florida. You guys talked about series prices in 6 or 7. Let's take a look right now. And this is how you play it because there's no way anybody sweeps anybody in these series. If you like Carolina, I like Carolina in the series. So why play them in the series? I can play them Carolina to win 4 games to 2 at plus 550 or Carolina in 7 at plus 450. Both of those numbers, anything happens, you get a plus price. Why play the series price when you can do 6 or 7? There's no way that this series goes 4 or 5. Freddie Anderson's playing great for Carolina tonight. You saw what Bobrovsky did in the final games against the Leafs. The Leafs couldn't score goals. Florida's battle tested. They're just a mean hockey team. Like, that's the thing. I actually thought the Leafs could play with these guys, and they just the first 5-10 minutes of that game, they peppered Toronto. Wall played great, and then after that, their offense they couldn't do. The minute they went up 1 or 2-0, the game was over. But Carolina's a different story. They shoot pucks at the net, the highest volume of shots, and that's what you have to do against Florida. Unlike the Leafs, who screw around with the puck and dick around with it and never shoot, Carolina's the complete opposite. All they do is shoot the puck from any angle, anywhere, and that's how you're going to beat a guy like Bob. So give me Carolina in that series. I don't know what to tell you guys about Dallas and Edmonton. It's going to be a war as well. Dallas has the horses. They're tough. Edmonton has the skill. Stuart Skinner in net is starting to play great for Edmonton. He's getting confident, and we know that Jake Ottinger right now is playing like Jake Ottinger when he's one of the best goalies in the world. So kind of like the basketball, guys. I don't see this thing going like anywhere past 6 or 7. Right now, I have futures on the Dallas Stars, but I have to reconsider. Edmonton's a really hot team right now, but I have Dallas winning the Stanley Cup. I had them meeting the Leafs, so you can put a line through that one. But one exact series price, I have Carolina versus Dallas. It's still alive, but the Leafs one paid a lot. This one pays a little bit, but I think that series in the West is going 7. Edmonton, though, you guys got to admit, this Oiler team looks really good right now. And if they get any type of goaltending, watch out. That's always been their weakness, a little bit of defensive breakdowns and goaltending, but they look great. And I expect both series. This has been awesome in the NBA, guys. Like, I'm used to the NBA going, we can literally do it blindfolded and go, that team's winning, that team's winning, that team's winning. And I've never seen so many underdogs and upsets. This has been like the best year for the NBA. It's kind of flipped, kind of turned like the NHL, where we're seeing teams advance. And I think that's good for sports and good for small markets like Minnesota, Indiana. It's nice to see Oklahoma City. It's good to see some of these new teams there instead of, but Dane, we need some thoroughbreds too, some blue bloods like the New York Knicks back
It's still
in the
been
fold.
since 1973, Cam. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Don't compare, and also don't compare the Knicks to the Leafs. The Knicks are better. Let's just remember one thing: they won't let you down as much as the Leafs will. So I think it's going to be a great series, guys. And kudos to the New York fans there. This team looks great, and I'm happy that some former Raptors have looked really good in New York Knicks uniforms. You got some real good defense with these guys, and I cheer for them for the things that they did when they were with Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously I was rooting on Boston with my personal bias, but they're the defending champs. When it comes to the NBA, we're going to see something we have either not seen ever or not seen in a long time, because the Pacers, the Timberwolves, they've never won a title. And you got to go back to, I think, the 70s for either OKC, who used to be Seattle, obviously, and Indiana. And so either way, you're getting a long drought ended or a team winning for the first time, which is exciting. Before we let you go, Cam, we got seconds, but is the play unders in the Eastern Conference in the NHL, overs in the West?
I play it game by game, Adam. Everything changes in the playoffs. You never know what's going to happen. I'll tell you, a lot of penalties with Florida and Carolina, so we can see some power play points. We'll feel out the series first. I'm not too sure, but I'm going with Carolina in the East in 6 or 7.
Cam Stewart follows us with David Morency on SportsGrid, as he does 10 p.m. Eastern each and every night here on the Grid. Thanks, bud.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
We were joking about pulling the ripcord with Cam Stewart. Dane, did you notice that the first answer that we got from Cam, that went on like 2 minutes, whatever it was? I wish I had, pulled out the stopwatch and all good information. So I'm just teasing him. I'm happy when he does that. I mean, I love the man. Of course. But I was chuckling when he started because I didn't even ask him a question. I just said, Cam, good to see you. And he just dove right in. It's awesome. He is just the best.
I absolutely noted that. And I think he covered 3 sports as well. I think he talked baseball, then he talked hockey, and he talked about our thoughts on the NBA as well, all with just you saying, hey, how you doing, brother man?
Yeah, and I think you might have mentioned the CFL in there as well. So the Seattle Mariners, taking a look on the diamond here, are up 5-0 in Chicago going to the bottom of the 9th. So should be able to put away the White Sox. The Orioles, 4-4 with the Brewers, top 8 in Baltimore after tying this thing up, has a man aboard, still plus 104 on the money line, but considerably better than it was earlier when it was 4-1. Philadelphia, interesting here. Interesting. Down 2-0 in Colorado, although a runner on third with 1 out, top 5. So Phillies, even with that, are still sitting at plus money on the money line, plus 108. And Royals and Giants are just underway and scoreless. How do you feel about Philadelphia and Colorado as it sits right now?
No, I think that's the one. I mean, we've been literally making fun of the Rockies all show long. Right? Even in relation to other teams like the White Sox and the Orioles, were like, there's still Colorado. This was also a game where I think the closing total was 10.5. So we all assumed there were going to be runs. And you mentioned that Philly has a runner on third. When this inning started, it was plus 150. And we were talking about getting Philadelphia at this point. I still believe Philadelphia will come back and win this game. And if you can get a team that was literally minus 255 to close, in Coors Field, 2 runs is not going to scare me. So, Adam, I agree. I think Philly on the run line is the way to go, even down by 2. I bet they cut this lead in half before we go off air.
What's interesting, too, is the books, obviously, the algorithm, I don't think it's a person sitting back there, but the algorithm agrees, in terms of the runs, never mind Philadelphia, because the fact that only 2 runs have been scored, we're sitting top 5, and the total is still 8.5 on the live line right now. I mean, they were just, of course we're going to get offense. I mean, it just dropped now to 7.5. It was plus money to the over at 8.5. Now it's 7.5 at right around minus 140. But the books still believe there's going to be a surge.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you take it on balance, it is more likely that surge is going to come from the Philadelphia Phillies, right? So, and you also got to think about the run expectancy. I mean, it is locked up right now, but when you've got a man on third and less than 2 outs, Philly is going to score. I think Bryce Harper is up now for Philadelphia. So we also have the middle of the order. And let's bring it on home here, Adam. What did I just say at the very top of the show? When we get into the 5th inning, the 6th inning, the 2nd and 3rd time through the lineup, that's when runs are going to be scored. I really think this is a prototypical blueprint in-game live situation to get the Phillies with a plus in front of their number.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, now it's 2-1. Kyle Schwarber is up. Bryce Harper drove in that run. So, like you said, cut the deficit in half before we even sign off. What I think is interesting, and I didn't personally invest in this, but we had Rob Donaldson on with us earlier, and he said what he really liked was a Colorado first 5. So that right now is obviously pretty sweaty if you're sitting on the Rockies side, but you had a plus money number, plus 150 on that bet. I think it was a good look. I mean, I'm gonna be, given that I'm rooting for Philadelphia, I'm gonna have to, I'll root for Rob to push and just void and get his money back. I want Philadelphia to tie this game. I won't root for him to lose. Philly doesn't need to score 2 in this inning. I can be nice. I can share the wealth, so to speak, but I would like Philly to keep the momentum going here with a man on, that power that Schwarber possesses at the plate there with 1 down in the inning. So, look, man, we're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. As I mentioned before, we got game 1 in the Western Conference Finals in the NBA, game 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals in the NHL, slew of baseball, obviously. There are multiple games in the WNBA if we want to get there. There's just a ton going on. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And literally, we've gone from plus 150 to minus 120 with the Phillies in the time we have been talking. So that's why you got to be here on In Game Live, Adam.
Absolutely. We want to thank all of our guests. Obviously, we had Rob Donaldson, we had George Kurtz, Cam Stewart. Most recently, he is going to pop on, as he always does, with Gabe Stewart. Sports Rage is going to follow us. Want to thank the whole crew, Preston, everybody behind the scenes for making this show possible. It's always fun. I'm going to be here with you all week long in this time slot, and Dane and I are going to be here again tomorrow, which is going to be a blast. I'm very much looking forward to it and having those basketball games to follow as well. But let's try and cash some bets on the Diamond tonight. Did the Dodgers do it? Did the Diamondbacks hand them yet another loss? I might have to stay up late and watch it, right? We all will. How you got to invest? Thanks for watching, listening. We'll see you.